Okay, so we're moving on through our conversation about data structures and talking now about arrays. So, when you first think about arrays, most people think about some of the most popular, like the easy four that everybody talks about is push, pop, shift, and unshift. So we don't have to really spend too much time on that, but we could just console.log. Here we can do colors.push, aqua, and we console.log colors. So obviously, you see in here that aqua's there, but we could say colors.shift aqua, or I'm sorry, colors.unshift aqua. Unshift puts it at the beginning, right? But if we said colors.shift, a shirt but shift, then shift takes the first one out red. Those are very familiar. Um, if we did colors.pop, then pop obviously pops off the last one. So we would get red, green, and black. Okay. So that's push, pop, shift, and unshift. Those are very common. Most people don't have a problem with that. What I have seen a problem with in some of our assessments are students or junior developers thinking that they can push onto a string. Now, if you're confused about that, watch the last video. The way you do strings, add to strings or put strings together is through concat or just using the plus sign or plus equals. So don't try to push onto a string; it doesn't work. Um, but pushing is for arrays. Right? Okay. So let's talk about some other array methods. Um, concat. So we just mentioned concat. So we could have colors here and then const hues equals navy and turquoise, right? So we could say const um, all equals colors dot concat hues, and it's console log all, and then we get this is a concat. Concat basically is a way of joining. It stands for concatenate, which means to take two things and put them together, right? So if you want to take two arrays and put them together, you can use concat. Now you may be asking, wait a minute, what's this const nonsense? I don't know what this is. So there are in ES6 and above, which was right around 2015 or so, 2016. JavaScript entered a new phase of life. ECMAScript is a body of programming languages of which JavaScript is a part. And ECMAScript announced a whole bunch of new features, which JavaScript then got. And so we have different ways of declaring variables. We have var, let, and const. You don't have to know those to get through this particular module, but just know that const is a something that can't be reassigned. So in this case, we didn't reassign anything. We have colors, a hues, and an all. No reassignment there going there. But if we did colors equals red like this, and then we try to run this, we get a type error because we try to assign to a constant variable. So no, we can't reassign the colors. But if this were let colors, we could, right? Or um, notice that it's just actually let's make this more clear by doing this as whites. Okay. If we run here, white is not in here because we did a colors and a hues and we did an all, and all was the colors I can get hues. We reassigned colors, but all had already taken these values and made a new variable. So this doesn't retroactively affect this one. All right. So that's var, let, and const. So you're used to seeing var. So this totally would work. We're just using var for everything. Okay. So that's concat. Concat puts things together, right? Um, Another one with arrays um, goes along with what we're talking about with split with the strings. So we could say var word equals the quick brown fox. I could say var split, or let's just call this word split equals word dot split. When we talked about the lumberjack in the previous video, the strings, when you do split, whatever you feed the split, the lumberjack takes an axe and splits wherever it sees that. In this case, we're splitting on the space. So what do you think it would be? Maybe you want to pause the video for a second and tell me what you think that we'll get. Right? We want, there's no all here, but we're gonna do this console.log word split. So word equals, and it's not really a word, it's like a phrase. And we want to do word split equals phrase dot split. We got the quick brown fox. We split on the space, and now we have an array with every word as an element in that array. Okay, so this is the segue for us to talk about an array method called join. So I think you probably know where this is going, or you may remember this from before. So you can say var joined equals word split dot join. Now, if you just join it like this with no spaces, oops, now we want a console.log joined. We get the quick brown fox. So split is the lumberjack with an axe that splits on what's fed to it. Join is glue that glues those pieces of wood back together. So if you join them with nothing in between, you've joined everything really tightly. If you join it on and put a space in there, you join it with spaces, but you could also join with a character like that, the quick brown fox. You can join with anything, minus sign. You could join with a word, silly, silly quick, silly brown, silly fox. Right? So that's split for strings, join for arrays. All right. Now, the last two that we want to talk about are also very commonly used and also very commonly misunderstood. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to get my colors. Okay. With the colors, this is an array with 4 elements. Remember slice when we are talking about strings? You can use slice. It is a functional method, which means basically it has no side effects. It doesn't alter the original array. So we can say let some colors equals colors dot slice 1, and see the hints, right? Start and end. So start at 1, end at 3. And we want to console.log some colors. Now remember, we said with slice, the start and end are indices. So similar to with the string, slice, this is 0, this is 1, so starts at 1, right? 2, 3. So we get green and black. So we were saying there were knives in the other example, right? So this 0, right? A knife goes down at 1. There's 2. A knife goes down at 3. We've done green and black. Okay. All right. So that slice is very similar to, well, let's just say that's just slice. Notice if we console.log colors, colors has been unaffected. So you see red, green, black, and gold. So even though we got a slice here, it's a functional method, so it doesn't have any side effects. It just went ahead and just got us a piece, and then we're out. Now, let's talk about another method called splice, which is completely different. We can say colors.splice 1, 2. Now notice the hints, right? 1, there's a start number. So we know it would start here. First knife goes here. But the next one is the delete count. Is how many in the array need to get deleted. What splice does is it removes elements from an array, right? So we can do 1 comma 2, right? And it's 1, but for the length of 2. So if we do colors now, we get red and gold because it's the axe went down here, and then it was for the length of 2, so it went these two, and then so gold is there, right? Now, if you do splice at 1 and leave it just like that, then you're saying you want it to splice it at 1 here, and then you see when you put this knife right here, then it, since there is no end, it just goes on to the end of the array, right? If you say colors are splice 1 comma 1, at 1 for the length of 1, so it just takes out the green. See that? 1 for the length of 1. If we did it at 0 for the length of 1, it just should, here it starts at 0 for the length of 1, and it takes out red. Right? So splice is good when you want to remove something from an array. And when we're dealing with slice, similar, right? So if we do colors.slice 1, this is the start, but since there's no end, actually, we'll just do this. Colors.slice 1. It just has one, it just has start. So you see here, we get green, black, and gold because we're getting a slice, just a slice of that just out here. But colors remains unchanged. When you do slice, it doesn't have any side effects. But you know, slice and splice are different, right? And we said when you do before, as we said before, when you do look at the methods, so we do JavaScript array methods, and we like the W3 schools. They've got a lot of this, yeah, the popping and the pushing, the pop, the push, the shift, the unshift, array length. There's delete, right? So you can just look at these concat. We went through these, right? Slicing and splicing. So there's splice. Oh yeah, the parameters, right? So let's talk about the splicing. You see what they're doing here? 2 and 0. Let's do something like that. So for splice, since you're removing elements of the array, we can console log colors in the end because it's like we're doing surgery with splice. So we can do colors dot splice. We'll splice at 1 for the length of 1, and we'll put in beige. So what did this do? If you see here, we start at 1, we go for the length of 1, which is green, and it cuts it out. If you provide it with something, it'll replace what you put, in there with that. So replace what was cut out with the third parameter, right? So 1 and 1, then that gave us beige there. 1 and 2, the length of 2. So we get beige and copper. So you see, start the knife here, go for the length of 2, and replace it with these two. But if you just did 1 and 1, and then beige and copper like that, then it cuts out green here, right? And then it puts in beige and copper, and then black and gold. So technically speaking, it may be confusing to other devs if you do this because like, wait a minute, you cut out 1 and put in 2. So usually it's better, just to do that. But Um, although, yeah. Oh, so yeah. Actually, actually a good that's a good teachable moment right there. If you put in for one here for the length of two, green and black, right? Then those two will replace with beige and copper. But if you do one and one, it just removes the green, right? And it keeps the black. So you actually end up with one more element than you had before. So you're doing splice here on a 4 element array, but you're only removing one and putting in two. So when you take away one, but then add two, it's a net gain of one. So yeah, that's why you have that. So again, yeah, this it could be seen as confusing, but the bigger kind of message here is that if you want to cut something out of an array in the middle of the array, you can use splice, and it will, based on what you feed it, it'll give you it'll give you an altered array. All right, and we talked about splicing at one and slicing one, etc. All right, so if you haven't seen slice and splice before, you may want to watch the end of this video just so you could see some of the examples. And I would really strongly encourage you to try these methods on your own, because just looking at videos is one thing, but actually trying it in a REPL, getting used to it, taking notes, it really helps to solidify these lessons in your mind.